We're going to talk about how do we remove parts of the photo uh, and make it look like it's never been there. So in this task, we are going to take a look at the this lady, and we're going to remove her from this scene and try to make it look like she's not there. So we talked about the healing brush and the spot healing brush and how that works. So let's try that and see how that works out. So I need it to be a little bit bigger than her leg or her foot. So I'm going to make my cursor a little bit bigger, probably about like that. And I'm going to start to paint out her legs. Huh.
She's a ghost.
What's it doing? Yes. Remember how we had the problem with the hair on the other one?
Yeah.
Same thing here. So I'm going to Command Z that. That's probably not the best brush to look at. So let's look at another brush. We have a healing brush tool, okay, which does something similar, but what it does is it samples from an area. See, when I click, it says option click to define a source point used to repair the image. So what this one does is you set a source point where you're going to sample from, and then it paints on that. Well, that's basically exactly what I used to do manually, but I did it with the rubber stamp tool because that's what it did, and it samples an area. So I'm going to go ahead and use the rubber stamp tool because honestly, I haven't found much of a difference between the healing tool and the rubber stamp tool. So I'm going to jump on the rubber stamp tool. And again, I'm going to come out here. I know you can't see it very well. My cursor's so... Where's my cursor at? There it is. Okay. So I am not going to sample, way up here, up towards the top of the water, up here. Because this is not the same as around her legs. So what I want to do is I want to match it vertically, what's going on horizontally, and travel vertically. So I'm going to come right over here by where her feet are, sample, because this is very similar. In perspective, it's very similar. And then the perspective changes as I go up and down. So I'm going to set it out here. I'm going to get a brush a little bit bigger than her leg. About like that. I'm going to come out about this far. Hold the Option key down. Hold the Option key. Set my source. Now I'm going to come back and see how it's carrying with it a little piece of rock like. That's showing me what my sample looks like. So I come straight over, and now I start to paint. And as I paint, my sample source is moving with me. It's above me. Okay? So I went a little too far. So what I'm trying to say, let me get a different tool, something that you can see. So if I get, let's just get the move tool. So if I set my source right here, as I travel up, when I'm painting up her legs, this source is traveling up equally. So it's sampling, it just doesn't stay in one spot. It travels parallel with my brush. Okay? So, get the rubber stamp tool, come over here, grab a sample, come straight across, start painting. I'm painting. I'm moving up. As long as I don't move left too far, I'll be okay. Now, when I let go, like now, it just set that. That looks pretty good. Now, wherever I click again, my sample cursor is still out here where I had sampled. It's just always going to remain in the same position. It's not way down here again. It's moved up here. It's always, the cursor and your sample source stay locked. They're locked with each other. So I let go. So now I'm going to resample. And I'm going to keep painting. And I just keep climbing. Keep climbing. Now watch. You're going to see the beach come up now. And I can paint right over. Now, if I go, here's the deal. If I go too far over, I am seeing what I have just painted. The computer still remembers what was there and is sampling from the old image. Watch this. If I keep going, and all of a sudden, look what happens. Because that lady's face was right there. I haven't let go of my cursor. So that lady is still technically the current image that it is selecting from. It's sampling from. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I let go, now I've just set it. Well, it's messed up, so I'm going to do a Command Z before I do anything else. And I go back. But you see, look at where I'm painting. It's showing me what's going to go right there. So that's telling you, so right now, my brush is on the left. My sample source is right on top of her cheek. Do you see that? So that, and it always remains in that position. It never gets any closer or further away. Whichever direction I move, it's locked. So I have to come back out here, hold my Option key, reselect my sample area. Now I'm going to come back over. And see the shoreline? The very first time you click, I want to make sure I get that shoreline lined up to where it looks correct. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, as soon as I start to click, now it's painting. It's painting from that new source. And I go vertically up and down. See, look, I came over too far. So I got to Command Z it. You got to be careful. You don't want to come over too far. You got to let go every once in a while. So now, before I get any closer, I let go of my mouse. Now I'm free to reset and click again. And everything looks good. Before I get too close, I let go. Reset. Now I click again. I'm not resampling. I don't have to set my resample source. I just have to set it so I can let go. Now, do you see any evidence of her there? Her fingers, yes. Now let me ask you a different question. Do you see any evidence of me tampering with the photo?
Yeah, sometimes the guy.
Where?
No.
There.
Yeah, the
So I have a trained eye. I can see it big time. Let me show you. Okay? So as I zoom in, do you notice there's a line of rocks right here? And that same line of rocks is right here. And that same line of rocks is, do you see that? That's a dead giveaway. When you start looking at photos, look for things like that that repeat. So the way to fix that is to go back and resample. So what I'm going to do is come over here, sample vertically or horizontally. I'm staying in line. I'm going to come over here and sample here. And I'm going to come all the way over here and get rid of that. And maybe do that. Grab it again from here and kick that. Maybe I need to do that with this wave up here. Change it out a bit. So now it's not as obvious that we made changes there. Do you see that? The last bit is I got to go in on her hand. Here's where you got to be a little bit of an artist. I'm going to get a smaller brush. Real small brush. I'm going to sample from right there in his hand, right there. And now I'm going to do those fingers. I got to click and let go. Click and let go. Click and let go. Okay. Now, I did one click too many. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to sample just outside of his wrist. Now I can hit this thumb. Need a little bit harder brush. Okay, softer brush. Now I'm going to come in here, get even smaller brush, and I'm going to sample down here, and I'm going to come in here and build his hand. Come out and sample again. What'd you say? Just kind of curve it around there. Now I'm going to sample his wrist right there again, or the inside of his hand. I got a little remnant of her wrist left I need to get rid of. All right. So his hand might look a little awkward, but there you go. She's completely gone.